Edgar Bernal. He's our product specialist. Let's give him a big round of applause right there. Some of you probably already know him.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
All right, so what we're going to do now in this seminar is taking control of your DMX lights like I was mentioning earlier. A lot of lights now have DMX, and it's great if you're using your lights in pretty much a standalone mode or sound active mode. A lot of the lights have some really nice built-in programs, which are nice. You turn up the music, the microphones that are built in will sense the beats, and then it'll dance around and do its show to the beat of the music, which is nice. But what we're going to do is quickly talk about our software, which is the MyDMX 2.0. How many of you guys are familiar with our software, or maybe used the MyDMX 2.0?
1, 2.
All right, cool. So if you guys are familiar with it, it's a very easy to use software. What's nice about the MyDMX 2.0 is you actually get a full DMX universe of control. So all 512 channels that you can control to connect all of your lights. And if you're not familiar with the DMX channels, pretty much the way it works is you have your cars, which is like that car can there, which will use 4 channels for your red, green, blue, and amber. Then you have something like this here, the moving head, which will use about 15 channels. And 15 channels on a moving head is pretty much your panning, fine pan, which means you can move left to right. But you have your fine in case you were on a spot and you wanted to just move it slightly, you can do that with the fine pan, as well as your tilt and fine tilt. You have your color, gobo, shutter, dimmer. It just keeps going on, however many features your moving head or your light might have. Well, what I'm going to do really quick is, you'll notice here on the software, right when it starts up, you have this first scene here, or first step, which is the setup. Is that other microphone still on? So when you're set up, what you'll have is your whole list of all these manufacturers. You have everything from the AmericanDJ and ADJ product line, as well as our different manufacturers. If you're using any other light, chances are the profile is going to be in there. So what I have connected right now is this InnoSpot Pro, and you'll notice to the left here, I have my list that I just scrolled through. I went into the AmericanDJ, and I looked at Inno Series, and I have my InnoSpot Pro. And it's really as simple as just doing this. I click it and drag it over to here, and now it's patched. Now what patched means is it's in this grid, which is nice on the MyDMX because it actually has all the numbers of the channels that you're going to need to set the light to. This one's very easy because it's my first light. So since I put it here, it's on number 1, and all I had to do was just set my DMX address on this to channel 1. So now it's going to be able to talk to the software. If you have other lights, what's really nice about this, you'll notice if I just scroll on top of it, this little box will show up, and it'll tell you the address. What's really nice too, you'll notice here, if anyone's familiar with dip switches is another way of addressing lights. Dip switches are kind of an old technology, older fixtures use dip switches a lot, but in case you're using that in your DMX patch, whenever you click on a fixture, the actual grid will move to whatever you need to set the dip switches to. We have our pin spot quad LED, which is DMX, and it actually uses dip switches. And instead of having to rely on downloading the app or opening the app, I can just use my software and I'll know exactly how to set those dip switches, which makes a setup a lot faster. So once I'm in my setup scene and I've set up all my lights, everything like that, however many you're using, all you got to do now is go into your next tab, which is your editor. And this is pretty much where the fun starts. What's nice about this versus like a regular DMX control board, it's pretty generic, so you don't know if you're really using the dimmer channel unless you had it all memorized or labeled like the way we did with some of our controllers out there. But on software, everything's already labeled out. And that's one of the important things about using the proper profile. A profile is something that you have that will allow the software to be able to talk to the light in the right way. So since I imported the InnoSpot Pro profile, now it's telling me what each one of those values is going to do, and I'll just demonstrate. So the first one is my pan, so as soon as I do this, I got my head moving around. Then I got my tilt, so I'll tilt it up, and I'm doing that just right over here. See, I'm going to just skip over my color and I'm going to go straight to my shutter and dimmer channel. So I'll bring up my shutter, and now I'll bring up my dimmer and let it be coming on. So that's how you know pretty much if you patched something correctly. If you patched wrong, what will happen is DMX channels might overlap. So especially with cars, if you've done that, if you're raising a red LED channel, you might be crossed, so you're bringing up an amber, maybe on another fixture. So that's one great thing about having a grid, where you can actually see where all your channels are supposed to be, and that way you get your patch set up correctly. So now, one of the things about the MyDMX, it's a great software if you're using it just like this. I've seen a lot of DJs use it just like this, and it's fine. But what I'm going to do really quick for you guys is we're going to just set up a couple scenes. And to do that, all I have to do is just double click here, and I'll call this first scene White Spot. So there it's done. And now my loops, what's nice about the loops is if you set up, let's say, a circle scene, if you selected always loop, it's always going to be doing that. So it's great if you're doing like a searchlight effect, if you're circling around the room, you want your movie head to be doing that, just use the always loop, and it's just always going to be doing that. In this case, what I'm going to do is I just double click on it, and I'll go to one loop. So now that that's set, I have that, and what I'll do is I'm going to create a new scene. When I do that, notice the light blacks out. So I'm going to call this one Blue Down. Now I'm going to set it to one loop, just ahead of time. And once again, I'm going to bring up my dimmer, my shutter, it's going to be blue. Now one thing I can do also on the software is I can move up the fader and it's going to be changing colors like that. Or I can just click on this and notice the color palette showed up. So I can go ahead and just select blue on the fly like that. And let's see. I'm going to go to blue. There we go. So maybe this profile needs to be updated. So once I have that set, I'm going to create another scene where I will call this up red. And let's see here. Close enough. Alright, so now I have 3 scenes here. And they're set. So I put them all to loop once, and I named them what I wanted to. And so that's pretty much how you program scenes. So those are your looks. Now imagine if you had 4 of these, you have those all spotting the stage, you have your part cans all set to blue. So that's pretty much how you set your master scenes, the looks that you're going to have for your evening or for your event. And once I have them all labeled, of course, I'm going to want to program a whole bunch of looks, different looks. And you'll see there, that took me just a few minutes. Even if you show up in advance, an hour ahead of time, you wanted to set up some looks. A lot of times what's great about having DMX control is we just did a show in Atlantic City, and they had this huge concert there. So they left like this giant 5-foot mirror ball in there. And what was really funny is I had a bunch of our 2R beams on top of our booth, so I shot those all to the mirror ball. So throughout the whole convention, it had this crazy mirror ball effect. So that's what's great about having DMX control, where if I just had sound active mode, I'm just going to wait until my moving head gets to that spot, maybe every 15 seconds. So that's what's great about having DMX control. You pretty much get the most out of your investment because now the lights are under your control, and it's just a lot of fun. Especially I was always into video games, so to be able to do this is really cool. So real quick, one thing I'm going to show you is this new feature that we added into the MyDMX 2.0. Right up here, you'll notice this little tab. If you haven't used this, definitely check it out when you get the chance. What's great about this software too is you can download this software for free on our website. You can go to americandj.com and download the MyDMX software. Of course, it won't work without the interface when you're trying to connect to lights, but at least you can get familiar with the software. I definitely recommend that, so you can kind of get an example of how it works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the scene builder, of this new scene here, where right now I have my Inno Spot Pro, and right now it's set to that red, my up red. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on effects right here. I have my presets where I can set my color wheel, I can do my dimmer, my shutter, everything like that. So actually what I'll do is do this, change the color there, and now what I'm going to do is click on effects right over here, and I'm going to click on this effects logo, and I'm going to use position effect. So as soon as I do that, notice the first one was a circle. A lot of times I get the question of why when I click on circle, my moving head's not doing a circle. And that's pretty much because the pan and tilt can only go to a certain degree, so to do a perfect circle is pretty much impossible. But what I would recommend is you can actually manipulate the circle on this so you can still get this kind of circular motion, which I did in this room over here. If you look at some of the scanners that I'm using, you'll notice they're doing the circle or something like that. So it is possible. The generic circle is just something where you can get some circular motion. So once I have this set, with programming, you know, this would take a while, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this checkbox here, and that's actually going to generate that scene for me. It's going to ask me if I want to create this, and I say yes, and there it's done. And check this out. Right over here, these are all the steps that are made so I can have this circular motion. So when I click on this, notice I'm just clicking on the down, and it's going through all those, and it's getting that circle. And also check this out too. Check out how these values are moving as I'm doing this. All of that would take so much time if you're programming manually, but with the scene builder, circles as well as color generated effects. So like for uplights, if you wanted to do fire effects or color changing effects, you can do all of that on the fly with this software. And if I wanted to check that out, I can click on this button here, which is play scene. So as soon as I do that, it's doing my scene. So I'll go ahead and rename that now. Let's see, I gotta stop it. And I'll call this Red Move. And there it's set. Go ahead and delete this one here. So now I have my white spot, which turned to red, the blue down, and then my red move. This light, it probably just needs a reset. So if I turn it off and on, let's see, I'll do that real quick. Yeah, so why was it red? Probably when I was moving it over here, it might have slipped the color wheel or something like that. So I'm going to reset it and just wait for that to go. And that's one of the nice things too. With DMX, once you set a DMX address or value to a fixture, if you need to do anything like that, you can just simply unplug, plug back in. If the DMX is still in there, notice it's already ready to go. So this one here is the My DMX 2.0. He was asking what interface I'm using, and this is pretty much the interface of the My DMX 2.0. Very simple. USB goes to the computer, talks to the software, and then DMX out. Get a question? How many fixtures? It's limited to one, well not limited, but you have one full DMX universe, so 512 channels. To kind of put that into calculation, this moving head uses 15 DMX channels, so 10 of them, no problem, 20, you're okay. That's one of the nice things about having, you know, a full DMX universe rather than just a number of fixtures. Yeah, so he was asking, once you set the scene, like these scenes that I made here, once I set them once, they're done. And what I like about that is typically, you know, for a mobile DJ, I have maybe my truss totems, and I'm always going to have them, you know, right outside of my DJ facade. They're always going to be about 6 to 7 feet from me, and whenever I'm going to an event, you know, dance floor, I'm usually going to want to set up maybe 10 feet in front of or something like that. So typically when I do my scenes and they're saved that certain way, it's going to be like that, you know, for all of my events. If I need to do any minor changes, you can do it on the fly. If you set up a whole bunch of blue scenes, and let's say you're doing a wedding where they want it pink, you can just simply select all those scenes and make them all pink. It'll take you a few seconds, and then you're set. So on this, I've done a bunch. I've done close to 100. Yeah, and what I try to do is I try to make all of my scenes, because I don't want to have too many, because then, you know, for me, I get sidetracked. So I'm doing music, and then I have lighting going on at the same time. So it could be kind of, you can get really busy. So if you set up your scenes that are kind of like your home run scenes, you know, you got a really cool circle, you have a nice strobe, and then, you know, for, you know, grand entrance or for first dance, I have my spot with a slow dim or something like that. I just have those kind of scenes for whatever event I'm doing. And that's one of the great things about this, the My DMX also. I know a lot of people have been asking, but one of the things we're waiting for in the update is it's going to have a 3D visualizer. So what that means is you're going to have a room that's going to be in the My DMX software where it's going to know how many lights you have in a patch. You're going to be able to move them around, put them on truss if you wanted to. So just think about how cool that's going to be if you're meeting with a client or something like that, and you wanted to show them your light show rather than just an image or a video on your phone or iPad or a device. You can show them on your computer. Oh, you don't like the way that looks? Your room's going to be this size. You want this totem over here. You want this light this high. I can make it happen. So that's one of the nice things about the 3D visualizer that'll be out soon. And it's a free update. All you got to do is, the software, like I said, is on our website. So anytime there's an update, all you got to do is go onto our website and just download the link, and then you're updated. So, any other questions so far? You guys doing okay? On the interface, it's $299, so $300 for full DMX control and some really cool stuff that I'll show you in just a second. So this is my editor scene. Once again, my editor is where I create my scenes, my looks. I use my scene builder if I wanted to do really nice fire effects, everything like that. And now I have my live mode, and pretty much this is where the party starts. You notice I have my tabs here. What's really great about these tabs is these are all ready to be triggered in many different ways. The most basic way is using your mouse.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Las Vegas DJ Show is proud to bring you an incredible event. Yesterday we watched
So right here I have my white spot.
Today,
I selected the blue now. Oh, now it's green.
Flavor Flav!
My red move. So it's set there, and just by moving my mouse around.
Our legendary friend, Bob Squad, Young Black Teenagers, Keith Shockwave.
So check this out. Whether you're using PC or Mac, on PC it's a right click, on Mac it's a double click. If I did that, notice this drop down that showed up. It shows me right now either learn keyboard command or learn MIDI command. Now what that means is, let's say my keyboard command I click on, right now it's waiting for a command. And what that means is, since this is my white spot, let's say instead of having to go into the software, I just wanted to make it a W. So I'll click on W, and now it's set. So if it was doing my red move, and let's say my white spot was for the grand entrance, and I see that they give me the signal that they're ready for that, I'll just click on W, and it's set. So that's one really cool way to do on your keyboard. If you wanted to label your keyboard a certain way, now it gives you the ability to trigger those scenes right away. Now this is what's great too. If you're using a MIDI controller, like the American Audio VMS 4.1, all of this is all MIDI assignable too. You know, if you've ever done your own MIDI mapping with Virtual DJ or Tractor, you know that you can assign different functions to different things on the controller. Well, what I discovered was, because I'm always doing the, like the virtual DJ demos for American Audio, and then I'm doing the My DMX stuff for, American DJ, and one day I had them both connected, I was scratching, and then my lights were moving, and that was because I assigned this, the strobe scene on my jog wheel. So anytime I touch the jog wheel, it would do that. So I'll do, on my red move, I'll do that double click again, and I'll click on Learn MIDI command, like you see right over here. And let's say it's my jog wheel. So anytime I'm going to touch my jog wheel now, it's going to be set to that. So I click on my W for my white spot, and let's say I was ready to do a little scratch in my set, doing that, and whatever I had that programmed to, it'll do my red circle. So just really, really cool ways that you can control the software. Keep in mind, it's just a $300 software that you can control with MIDI controllers, your keyboard, as well as definitely if you get a chance, check out what Arnaldo Hoffman has set up over there. There's also a free app, so you can build all of your scenes on this app and trigger all of that too. So great ways to get control out of your lights with my DMX. You saw it's real easy to build a scene. If you're using the scene builder, no problem. And does anyone have any questions about any of that? That's a good question. So right now I'm just using one light, and let's say I had 4 of them, and I want all 4 of them to be doing that. What's really nice about this, with profiles, if I selected, InnoSpot Pros, and it was 4 of them, it's going to treat the whole group the same way. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And one thing to keep in mind too, if you ever see on the software, there's a feature called phasing. Phasing is what gives you that kind of follow effect. So you'll notice with the beams up here, they're doing all the same thing, but there's a slight delay in the way they're doing that. So that's a really cool way, especially if you have circles going around. I'll wrap it up now, but thank you guys again, and we have hats for you guys. I think Alfred should say something. And if you have any questions too, I'm going to be here, so just feel free to just ask me a question or whatever. Thank you guys.
All right, let's give up Edgar a big round of applause.